We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday when you hear this, the day after Thanksgiving. However, I'm recording this Thanksgiving night. Long day. Went to a couple of places. Have my granddaughter overnight, and we're going to go hit Sky Zone tomorrow, bounce on trampolines. I'm not bouncing on a trampoline. Ain't no way I'm jumping on anything or off of anything except maybe my chair when I have to go to the bathroom. But beyond that, I'm not bouncing on shit. But my granddaughter and her cousins will be doing that, so it'll be fun. I do a podcast every day, and normally I would have a guest, but it's Thanksgiving night, so all guests are busy. Then maybe I might do a live, but you guys are all busy. Doing a live would be ridiculous. So I have to sit down with myself and just talk a bit about some of the things that are going on and read some text. And we'll see how long this goes. It may go an hour, it may go less than an hour. It doesn't matter. It's Thanksgiving night. I'm here every day and I'm going to continue to be here every day. I'm just going to say that not every day will be as good as the last day. Okay. Never fear. I have tomorrow to redeem myself. So we've got that going for us. First thing I wanted to talk about was the big story, this shooting in Washington, D.C. Let's lay it all out. We know more about this than when it first happened, of course. Um, National Guard is in Washington, D.C. Now, I want you to remember something. A judge just said having the National Guard in Washington, D.C. is illegal. So, why these National Guard members were still there from West Virginia, I don't know. But Donald Trump was told by the courts the National Guard being in Washington, D.C. is illegal. So they should not have ever been there. The only reason they're there is because of Donald Trump. So anyway, we have this shooting and a lot of weird stuff around it. I don't understand it. We first hear about the shooting and we hear two National Guard members are shot. And we hear they're in critical condition. Then an hour later or so, the governor of West Virginia tweets out that both National Guard members had died. Then he walked that back. Are you telling me the governor didn't get good information? He didn't have the ability to get the accurate information? It just seems weird to me. So anyway, he backs off of it. Now the media is reporting that they are both in critical condition. Tragic nonetheless. The fact that these National Guard members didn't even need to be there, shouldn't have been there, and were subjected to somebody coming up with a handgun and shooting them in the head. It's fucking tragic. This is horrible. So now at that point, we understand that they're alive but in critical condition. Later tonight, Donald Trump comes out and announces that there's a woman amongst these two. She's 20 years old and she died. That's what Donald Trump announces. Apparently, the wounds were they were mortal wounds, and she was alive for a time, but now she has passed away. And this is absolutely tragic. This young woman trying to start out her life, trying to do the right things, serving in the National Guard and trying to live her life, and she's subjected to this for no fucking good reason. Remember, the National Guard shouldn't have even been there, according to the courts. So we find out that the shooter was wounded as well. I still don't know if it was self-inflicted or from somebody else. We don't know that. But then we find out that this shooter is an Afghan national from Afghanistan. And of course, Donald Trump is screaming and yelling, oh, it's the Muslim, it's Islam, and it's Biden's fault. But then we find out a little bit more, which I find interesting. First of all, this gentleman came into the country in 2021, which would be under the Biden administration. But he applied for asylum. He was granted asylum in April of 2024. Donald Trump was the president. Now, Donald Trump's administration granted him asylum. Now, when asked about that earlier, this is what he said. He said it's Biden's fault. Somebody said, but you gave him asylum. He said, well, you have to understand, once they have asylum, it's hard to get them out. Really, Don? You're grabbing people off the street and sending them to El Salvador. I find it hard to imagine that you couldn't have picked this person up if he was overstaying his visa or whatever the fuck he was doing. But you didn't. You didn't. Now, here's where it gets real weird. Here's where it gets very weird. We have this guy from Afghanistan. For whatever reason, he ambushes these two National Guard members, presumably not knowing them at all, comes up with a handgun, shoots them both. We know that at least one is dead. We don't know the condition of the second one. Absolute tragedy. But here's the interesting thing. This guy is from Afghanistan. He did apply for asylum. The Trump administration granted that asylum. But here's what's weird. And at first, when I heard this, I thought it was just simply a conspiracy theory. Somebody made it up. But as I'm looking into it deeper, I'm finding out it's true. This guy, this Afghani national, he worked for the CIA. He worked for the fucking CIA. He had a CIA badge in his stuff. Now, apparently, he was working in conjunction with the CIA back in the Afghani pullout. You know, remember when Biden pulled out? So presumably he was promised some asylum or something for whatever work he did in the Afghanistan pullout. But he was a member of the CIA, at least for a time. And prior to becoming a member of the CIA, he was vetted in order to be working with the CIA. See what I mean? This is just fucking weird. The guy's an immigrant, yes, but he worked in conjunction with the CIA for America in the pullout of the Afghanistan war. You notice how it is always with Donald Trump? It's always this way. He always says he's transparent, but nothing that happens is ever transparent. We had his assassination attempt back in Butler, Pennsylvania. He said he got shot in the ear with a high velocity bullet from an AR-15. But there is no scar. There was a little blood, but we don't know where that came from. And to be honest, if you get hit, even nicked in the ear with a high velocity bullet from an AR-15, it's going to rip your whole ear off. You're going to go down and you're not going to pop back up with your arm in the air screaming, fight, fight, fight. Something funny about that. And what's even more funny about that is we don't know anything about the shooter. The shooter ended up dying, of course, but we don't know anything about his background. We don't know anything about the investigations around it at all. Fuck, at this point, we know more about the JFK assassination than we do on the attempt of Donald Trump. Why is that? Seems weird. And then Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. We don't know anything about the guy. They gave us some stories, but when we watched the videos, it didn't match up. It didn't make sense. But we don't know any more about that. Erica, his wife involved, she's acting weird. And now this situation. 2 National Guard members shot on the streets of Washington, D.C. within blocks of the White House. Donald Trump, of course, is down in Mar-a-Lago, and he is playing golf because that's what the fuck he does. They're shot. We don't know why they're shot. Shot by an Afghani national who appealed for asylum. Donald Trump's administration gave it to him, and he works for the CIA. Why is everything so sketchy when it comes to Donald Trump? Everything that involves Donald Trump is weird or suspicious or suspect. I don't know how this all plays out, but I hope at some point in the near future we get the full story about what's going on, because it just doesn't make any sense at all. We'll talk more about that. I'm going to check in on some text. We got a number of texts, and normally I would do this as a separate show, but I'm sitting here Thanksgiving night, and I don't know what the fuck to do. So we're just going to do whatever the fuck I feel like, because it's my show. We've talked about that before. All right, the first text says, Hello, Boomer. I'm a little older than you, 72 years old, and I relate totally. When I hear all the Trump administration crap, I want to scream. Instead, I listen to your podcast and lives. Been listening about 3 years and look forward to your thoughts each day. Question: hypothetically speaking, if Dirty Diaper Donnie passes away while still in office, do you think they will report that right away or pull a weekend at Bernie's on us? I think because we're dealing with a bunch of incompetent people and they won't know what to do, even though it seems like that eventuality is imminent. Donald Trump doesn't look good. Doesn't look like he's got much time to last. I think they will spin around for a while and they'll try to keep it undercover as they try to figure out what the fuck they're going to do. I think that's what they'll do at first. But the way the media is and how out there that Donald Trump is, I don't think they can keep it secret very long. They will announce it. They'll turn it into a fundraising event. They'll turn it into a big show, and everybody's going to weep for Donald Trump. I think people will be surprised. If you think people were indifferent for Charlie Kirk, when Donald Trump dies, people will be jubilant. This country will be rocking with people celebrating. And it's going to hurt the feelings of the Republicans, but fuck them. They deserve it. And everybody should be joyous when this scourge that's called Donald Trump is no more. So I think they will try Weekend at Bernie's for a little bit, but they won't be able to handle it, not only because of the news cycles, but because they're fucking incompetent. Okay. Hi, Mike. Just a vote of appreciation for the way in which you have crafted your evolving podcast. From the musical introduction to the content and sign off, truly excellent. Thanks for your ongoing efforts to clear the mire in the swamp of American politics. Paul. Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. As I've told you before, I spent many years in radio, so I have some of that influence. I know how to structure a show when we do the lives or whatever. And when you listen to the lives, I specifically do them like a show, almost like a call-in talk show, because as much as they're alive, they're going to be a podcast too, and it's got to be listenable. And I think a lot of people who are on TikTok, the lives are kind of lackadaisical. They don't repeat the questions that are in the comments. That's a little lazy. And it isn't because they're doing a bad job. It's just that they don't have the experience in broadcasting to understand that you got to let everybody understand what's going on. But I appreciate that. The intention was to make it a show without sounding like radio. That's a mistake a lot of podcasters make too. They want to just emulate radio. And my contention is that if you want to listen to radio, turn on the fucking radio. Podcast is a different thing. It's more intimate, it's more casual, and I think people enjoy listening to that more. They like to be included in a conversation as opposed to being preached at. They should feel kind of part of it. And that's why I like to take questions like this and on lives and such. All right. Next one says, hi, Mike. Have you heard anything about Pete DUI Hogsbreath being fired? No, he has not been fired as yet, but I think he may be in line. I think Kash Patel will probably go first. And you can get excited about that if you want, but I guarantee you whoever they replace him with will be just as bad. Maybe not as bug-eyed and stupid, but comparable. Let's see here. I was going to tell you I had a gentleman coming on talking about a woman that came on that wanted a phone number from somebody in schools so she could help to pay for kids' lunches. She was looking for a number. The gentleman did send me the number. And then I erased it for some reason. So I asked him to get it back. We got it. Pamela's got the number. That's cool. All right. The next one is a happy Thanksgiving from Cheryl. She and her brother are avid listeners of the show. And they make comments too. Always great to hear from them. Cheryl is, I believe, from Hawaii. Says, hi, Mike. Got your number off the podcast today. Always look forward to listening to all your shorts and podcasts. You always keep us informed and positive. My brother Steve was making Christmas cookies with his lady friend, and I told him to send you some because you said you like treats. He's a great cook and baker, so I'm sure you will enjoy them. He was so happy that the gerrymandering didn't get passed in Indiana. He got involved with getting people to call. We got to stay strong, and you are such a great influence. I have seen the Golden Gopher blanket for a while. Steve said that you were doing so good, and I thought you might have put it away. Maybe, maybe you have. May you have a very blessed, happy, and blessed Thanksgiving with your family. Much aloha, Cheryl and Steve. Yeah, I have that Gopher blanket. They just moved it to a different chair. My wife did, and so I didn't think that anybody would notice it. And when you're in this situation on the podcast, you don't see it because you see this lovely room behind me. I have to give you full transparency. But this isn't real. This isn't real. This is a background on Zoom, and I wanted to pick something that wasn't crazy or too annoying, but still look nice. So this is a fake background. This isn't, and I'll tell you the reason why I do it is because I'm doing this in my living room, like what you see on the TikToks. And if I'm on for an hour and a half or something like that, um, I got my wife walking around in the background. And if I'm doing this, she's got to stay locked in her room. But if I'm doing it with the background, she can go to the kitchen or do whatever she has to do. So it's just to give her some privacy. I would love to have her on the program, but she has no interest in that, and I'm not going to push her to do it. She'd probably just make me look dumb. So if she wants to stay off, that's fine. I do have my granddaughter here. I guarantee you, if I had my granddaughter on with me, this shit would go viral. But I think I think her mom and dad probably wouldn't like it. Grandma definitely wouldn't like it. I think she would fucking love it, but she's not coming on. She's back in the bedroom asleep right at this point. All right, the next one says, "Hey Mike, I know asking why some of the Trump's followers is futile, but why can't they tell the difference between lawful and unlawful and legal and illegal orders that a president can give? Obviously, blowing fishing boats out of international waters without approval from Congress is illegal or unlawful. This is just one of the many orders given. It bewilders me." Denny from Iowa. Well, I don't think it is that they don't know it's illegal. They don't care. They hate the Democrats so much that they're willing to do virtually anything to own the libtards. They think if the liberals get a hold of this, they'll destroy the country. And they look at what Donald Trump is doing as maybe illegal, but it's okay because it's for the greater good. That's what they do. So they do know. I mean, not all of them are as stupid as some. I'll be honest with you though. When I hear Trump fucks on TikTok or I run into one, they all seem to be genuinely uninformed, misinformed, ill-informed, and fucking downright stupid. So I think a lot of them are stupid. A lot of them don't care as long as you're owning the libtards. All right, somebody sent me a TikTok. I think I looked at it, but I look at a lot of TikToks. But the note says again, the establishment Democrats and Chucky and Jeffrey Giraffe got punched the fuck out by a racist orange piece of shit. I know we're hoping for the best, but little Dick Mikey says they won't vote on extending the ACA. The only thing I see saving them is enough Republicans retire before they run out of the Democrats to take control back. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't. I don't know if Mike will. What the hell happened here? All of a sudden, I got bigger. What the fuck? Hold on a second here. All right. I don't know what happened. Now I got smaller again. Something with Zoom. It doesn't matter. I'm still here. Um, The thing is, Mike Johnson is in trouble at this point. He's got some serious problems. Whether he'll take the vote on the ACA or not, who knows? I think ultimately he'll be pressured to do that because, as much as the Republicans say they don't like the ACA and we're going to cancel it, there are more people in red states that get ACA. And if they were to do something like that, it would be absolutely devastating for them. I mean, they think they got it bad for the midterms. It would be fucking horrific. I think at some point they're going to extend the subsidies a year, maybe 2 years. And the reason I believe that is because that's how the Congress always does it. You know, they always do the CR, continuing resolution, at the last minute on the last day. They'll fuck around and stand strong, and then all of a sudden they'll cave because they're afraid of what it's going to do to them. My gut tells me that the ACA will be extended for at least a year, and then we'll be after the midterms at that point, and then we can straighten some shit out. All right. I had somebody send me something. Send me pictures of something they made for Thanksgiving, and I can't really tell what it is. It looks like maybe a um, blueberry Betty or something like that. That's what it looks like, and it says, "And it's good." I bet it's good. It looks fucking good, but I don't know what it is. You got to tell me what it is. All right, let's see here. Hello, Mike. I want to say thank you. We should all be thankful for you. Yeah, come on. I hope you and your family have a safe and blessed Thanksgiving. Done all my cooking and getting ready for Christmas. Tomorrow, football, watching football. Tomorrow's Bear Down. Obviously, a Chicago fan, a Chicago Bears fan. I'm in Minnesota, have been a Minnesota Vikings fan, but at this point, it's seems to be all for naught. Um, our team is in a spiral, much like Donald Trump, and we're not expecting much out of the Vikings henceforth, which is disappointing. But, you know, what the fuck are you going to do? All right. Next one says Hodiner here. Hodiner shows up a lot in the Substack live, sometimes the TikTok lives. Hodiner here, as odd as it may seem, I feel like the end of the Trump regime is upon us. You and Jace brought up music this week and movies. It made me think that we're going to see quite a bit coming out as our nation processes. What the fuck? It's been a long day. I'm full of turkey and shit. Processes this administration. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, Mike. You and your regulars are one of the things I'm thankful for. Well, thank you and happy Thanksgiving to you. In as far as we're coming to the end, yeah, I get that sense too. I do get that sense that we're maybe on the downside and things are starting to spiral for Donald Trump. You can see it. I mean, he was in a press conference earlier today, Thanksgiving Day, and somebody brought up the shooter and how he gave him asylum, and he was downright angry. I mean, he looked at one of the members of the press and said, "Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? This is the president of the United States pulling this shit. It's crazy." The things he does is so unprofessional, so immature. And this is part and parcel to what happens with a narcissist. They're real good at first when people are loving them, and then they start to fade because they get too much to control. And Donald Trump is in that point. He's got an economy that's in the shitter, in spite of the fact he continues to say it's great. He's got the deportations, the backlash from the bombing of boats in international waters, the Epstein files. He's got so many things hitting him at this point, he can't control it. And that's important for a narcissist. They have a lot of things, a lot of dishes spinning, plates spinning. But when you get too many, you can't control it. The only obvious outcome is crashing and burning. And that's what we can expect for Donald Trump upcoming. All right, the next one. Um, have a great one, RB, meaning Thanksgiving. Really like the Taking a Break pod. Matt R. from San Antonio, which is interesting because Jace, who does that with me, is also in San Antonio. I wonder if they know each other. Um, I should just mention what that's about if you haven't heard of it. You know, I do the podcast and it's always about politics and government and all that sort of thing. Jace is a gentleman who's been on the podcast many times and we talk about politics, but Jace also is a Gen Xer. He's interested in music, pop culture, movies, and that sort of thing. He says, I want to do a podcast like that. I said, well, hey, why don't you and I do a podcast? We already got a platform to do it. We'll do a podcast once a week, and it'll be something totally different than what we do with with the political stuff. So we do an extra show. That show isn't replacing any show. We do still do the same amount of shows every day, but once a week we'll do this podcast regarding music, pop culture. It's just fun, kind of a bullshit session, and it's called Take a Break. And I think we all need to take a break once in a while. I mean, I've been talking about this shit for 5 years, every fucking day, all day. A break is much appreciated at some point. So if you get a chance, there are a number of those shows. And the interesting thing about those shows, it's not like this show in the fact that it doesn't have a shelf life. See, that's the problem with this podcast is that if you go back 2 weeks and listen to that podcast, it's all out of date. It's irrelevant at that point. You have the podcast for the day, and then next day there's another one because the last one is outdated. In the case with taking a break or take a break, it's always relevant because it's not time sensitive. So if you get a chance, check it out. I also want to remind folks as I'm reading these text messages that if you have questions or comments, just send a text to this number, 952-522-1399. 952-522-1399. And I'll tell you what, I'll give it at the end of the show too, just in case you didn't have a pen and you can get it at that point. Let's see here. Somebody says, enjoy your day with your family, especially Junie and your grandson. My grandson's name is August. Got to see him today. He's a goofy little kid. Love that kid. He's only 6 months old, so he's not doing a lot yet, but he's laughing and smiling a lot, and that's great to see. Junie, we got to see her today too. She's sleeping in back with grandma as they're watching a movie and falling asleep. And that really is the best part of any holiday is being able to get to see your family that, you know, maybe you don't get to see as much during the week, during the regular season, as it will. But hanging out with the grandkids, that's probably my favorite thing to do at this point. Whether it's the 6 month old or the 5 year old, we're always going to have fun. And I look at those guys and the thing about it is it's nice to hang out with them, but it is motivation and encouragement for me to continue to do what we do here on the Rational Boomer podcast. Um, we've got a lot of years ahead for those kids. Um, and I'm an older guy. I'm 65 years old. I don't know how much time I have. You know, who really knows? Um, but we've gone through some bad times and some good times in this country in my lifetime. The good times are better. And I think it's important, it's incumbent on us to make sure things are better for our kids and our grandkids. So you never really know how much impact you're going to have or how you're going to affect things. But the important thing is you do something. Now, at my age, I'm limited at what I can do. I spent all my years in broadcasting, so the one thing I can do is talk. I can talk my ass off. Um, in fact, you know, when I was young and out hitting the bars and trying to meet women and stuff like that, I had a really tough situation. I was fine. I was younger. I was in shape. But I had two friends. These two friends were hockey players. They're my best friends. They played on the high school team. They went on to play on the University of Minnesota team. One of them went on to play on the Olympic team in 80, the Miracle on Ice team, and then went on to play pro hockey. My point is, these guys were all about 6'2", 6'3", elite athletes. And here I am. I'm 5'8" or so and stocky, and I was in shape, but not much competition for those two guys. The one advantage I have is I could talk, and they were more shy. So I could bring the girls in, but when it came to dating, it was the elite athletes that got the dates. So at that point, I decided if I'm going to be doing this, I'm not doing it with those guys because it's just not going to work. And I better learn how to talk my ass off. So shortly after that, I met my wife and we went on and we've been married for 42 years. So talking my ass off has served me well throughout my life. And so here I am. Here I am. And this is how I got to where I am today. And you know what? That's the thing I always tell people. When you're a young man, you've got more testosterone than you do intellect. You want to be rich and famous and have all the toys and do all the things and the supermodel wife and all that stuff. But then when you get out of college, you quickly realize, yeah, that's not real. That's not going to happen that way, which is fine. But what a young man should understand is the goal isn't to have every toy and be as rich and famous as possible. The real goal should be to set yourself up when you're my age or even a little younger, where you can be content and you can be comfortable and you can live a good life. Your kids are gone, it's just you and your spouse, and you can go out and enjoy life. And I won't say that that was my plan in the beginning, but that's how it ended up. So I'm very grateful for that. And I have friends that have a lot more money than I do, but they go through a lot of shit. My wife and I do whatever we want. We fly, we take trips, we go out to dinner all the time, and we have a good life, and we hang out with our grandkids. So life is good. Don't worry about having it all. Just worry about being content and happy and stress free if possible. So I don't know why I went off on that story. I know why I went off on that story because I got another half hour to fill and I don't know what the fuck I am going to say. We got so much shit going on. It's sometimes hard to keep track or remember some of the fucked up shit going on. We talked about earlier that Donald Trump is bombing fishing boats in international waters, claiming they're drug dealers or drug runners. There's been no proof of that, nothing at all. They bombed like 17 or 18 different boats, maybe as many as 80 people dead. And not 1 inch of proof has been given that these boats have been carrying drugs. And even if they were carrying drugs, it's down by Venezuela. No way these little boats can get to America. But Donald Trump doesn't care about that. So whenever Donald Trump does something, then he has to ramp things up, right? He's got to find a way to ramp it up to make it more egregious, to be more cruel. And this is what he said today. The U.S. will very soon start taking action to stop suspected Venezuelan drug traffickers on land. Says you probably noticed that people aren't wanting to be delivering by sea and will be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon, Trump said, speaking virtually with U.S. military service members. So, what's that mean? What's that exactly mean? It sounds to me that they're going to be doing some bombing or boots on the ground in Venezuela. That is tantamount to invading a country. If there was ever a time when the Republicans might have a problem with Donald Trump and what he's doing, you would presume that would be the time. That would be when they'd say, all right, hold it, fucking stop. We'll see if, in fact, they do that. But when something like this happens, not only is Donald Trump breaking American laws, he's breaking international laws. He's already done that with what's going on with the boats he's been bombing. But this is how Donald Trump does. He does something, then he ramps it up, and then he ramps it up again. Um, And this is what I've said about narcissists too. When they get cornered and there's no way out, they do everything they can, anything they can. They will distract, they will become violent, they will become flailing. And this is what Donald Trump is doing. And he sees this as a way to direct people's attention away from the things that they are paying attention to, like the Epstein files. If he thinks this is going to work, he's fooling himself. It's not going to fucking work. There's no question about it. Now, as I was talking about earlier, with this shooting in Washington, D.C., reporters have been doing something different than they've ever done before. And that means confronting Trump and asking him hard questions. We know by now that Donald Trump does not like hard questions. He does not like answering them. And Trump's White House has attacked journalists for comments made following the shooting of the two National Guard members in Washington, D.C. Now, in the aftermath on Wednesday, targeted attack near the White House, administration officials took issue with reporters raising questions about Trump deploying troops to the Capitol. The blowback comes as Trump's frequent attacks on the media have become more personal in recent weeks. The fiercest criticism was aimed at New Yorker writer Jane Mayer, who said the shooting was so tragic, so unnecessary, as the National Guard should have never been deployed in Washington, D.C. This is true, as I've told you. They should have been deployed in the first place, but once the judge said it was legal, they should have pulled them out. But they didn't. In spite of that, the National Guard is still there. This woman goes on to say, I live in D.C. and watched as they had virtually nothing to do but pick up trash. It was for political show, and at what cost, Mayer said in a post on X. Now, in response, Stephen Chung, the White House communications director, wrote, now, you remember who Stephen Chung is? This guy is a puffy-faced, fat-ass, porky pig-looking motherfucker. Now, people say, you shouldn't shame people for their looks. Fuck you, I don't care. I mean, I'm not exactly fucking Robert Redford up in this bitch. And I can tell an ugly guy when I see an ugly guy. This guy has an ugly face, an ugly body, and an ugly heart as well. And this is how he responds. Jane, respectfully, shut the fuck up for trying to politicize this tragedy. Politicize it? Didn't you just say it was Biden's fault? Sounds like you're politicizing it. Sounds like you're the one doing this bullshit. He goes on to say they're protecting D.C. and trying to make the nation's capital safer. People like you who engage in ghoulish behavior lose all credibility. Not like you had any to begin with, he added. The White House Rapid Response X account also weighed in calling Mayer a sick, disgusting ghoul. As you load up American citizens in trucks and buses, trying to deport them, even though you made the mistake of getting somebody who was perfectly legal to be in the country. We've got people dying in detention camps, kids being dragged out of fucking apartment buildings naked and being zip tied. But we're the ghoulish ones. We're the crazy ones. We're the ones that are causing the problems. Please, motherfucker. Please. And this Stephen Chung guy, I hope he's done something to be arrested when this is all over with, because he and all the others, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, that's one thing you got to be looking toward, or at least hopefully anticipating, is when this is all over and we have a normal Department of Justice, there is going to be investigations. As soon as Democrats take control of the House, there'll be nothing but investigations up until the midterms. And they will be exposing all the crimes that everybody from Elon Musk to Pam Bondi have been doing. Pam Bondi should be especially concerned. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General. In spite of what Donald Trump says, she is the top law enforcement person in the country. Donald Trump says he is, but it's Pam Bondi. technically speaking. But Pam Bondi has done a lot of horrific things, mainly because she is incompetent and does nothing but kiss Donald Trump's ass. That's all she's done. But she's also involved in what clearly is a cover up. And we know that sometimes the cover up is worse and um, you're in a riskier position if you engaged in a cover up. And make no mistake, she has been involved in a cover up. Um, and so when this is all over, expect her to be investigated, indicted, and prosecuted. And you're probably thinking to yourself that how could that happen? She's the attorney general. Well, when she's not the attorney general, she can certainly go to jail. It's not unprecedented. In the Richard Nixon administration, there was an attorney general named John Mitchell, and what Richard Nixon did wasn't 1/10 of what Donald Trump's done, and what John Mitchell did wasn't 1/10 of what Pam Bondi's done. But John Mitchell, a fairly respected attorney and politician, he ended up in jail. He's in jail, and he he didn't get out of anything. And there's going to be a lot of taste for retribution and accountability for all these people that committed crimes, whether it be Elon Musk or Kash Patel. He's part of the cover up too. And that cover up is going to get worse. As much as they've been told that they have to release the Epstein files, they are going to do whatever they can to avoid it or distract or delay. That's just what they do. They really can't afford to have the files released, not only because of Donald Trump, clearly he's all over the files, but there are a lot of very wealthy, prominent, and powerful people in those files. There's going to be a lot of push from them on the DOJ to not release it, in spite of what Congress has said. And as I've told you before, I'm convinced that those files will not be released until Donald Trump is out of office. And then when Donald Trump's out of office, there's going to be a deluge of the Epstein files and everything else that Donald Trump has been involved in. And it's going to be voluminous. It's going to be a lot of shit. And Donald Trump will end up, as I suggested before, shamed and a pariah, and his name will be mocked forever. So I hope the grandkids decide to change the last name because they're going to need to. Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, they can't. They're already known to be Trumps, so they're going to be stuck with it for the remainder of their lives. But there will be a reckoning and there will be retribution for the things they've done. And we see that things are falling apart at this point. We see that Donald Trump is having trouble maintaining his temper. He's now saying things. His people around him are saying things like, shut the fuck up, or you're a little piggy. This isn't somebody that has these aren't people that are in their right mind. They just aren't. You don't do that. It's a bad look, bad optics. And it's not only bad for the Republicans, it's bad for the Trumplafucks that follow him. You know, they support him for many things, but as he keeps continuing to fail, and as he keeps looking stupid and losing control, because that's what he's doing, he's flailing, people are going to step away from him. That's just the way it works. That's what they're going to do. And he's at that stage right now where everything is falling apart, and all you have to do is look at his face, and you can see that he doesn't have much time with the support that he's had up to this stage. We all heard a story about how Steve Witkoff, this special envoy of Donald Trump, was talking to one of the higher ups with Russia, basically tutoring him to how to deal with Donald Trump, to get him to go along with whatever Russia wanted in these peace talks. That makes Steve Witkoff basically a traitor. because that's not his job. His job is there to negotiate. And when you negotiate with both sides. But this peace plan that was handed off to Zelensky, 28 points, or now it's 20 points, they weren't even involved in the negotiations. This is who Donald Trump is. We've thought he was a Russian asset, and the people around him Russian assets. And when I say Donald Trump is a Russian asset, it's not because he's a evil genius that has some ideas and some plans to overtake the country for the benefit of Russia and whoever. What it really is he's a useful idiot. People know how to manipulate him. It's not hard if you understand who Donald Trump is. I mean, Zoran Mamdani figured it out. That's why Donald Trump likes him. He understands how to deal with Donald Trump. So that's going on with Russia. But it's not just Russia. Listen to this story. President Donald Trump reportedly called the new Prime Minister of Japan, Sanae Takaichi. Now, she is the new Prime Minister, and she is a radical right, Trump-humping piece of shit. And what he did was he asked her to back off of public statements of support for Taiwan following long, angry calls with China's President Xi Jinping, and that's reported by the Wall Street Journal. Now, we know that there's been a lot of talk about China trying to overtake Taiwan, and that's been talked about a lot, and I know Joe Biden held these people off. Donald Trump should be concerned with them taking over Taiwan as well, but he doesn't. He's not smart enough, and he's in bed with any powerful dictator that he thinks he likes or might help him in some way. They won't. They're using him. That's just what they do. But now Donald Trump himself has gone to a prime minister of Japan saying, stop talking badly about or stop supporting Taiwan so Xi Jinping can do whatever the fuck he wants. Now he's an asset for China. That isn't what a president does. They don't do that shit. Trump set up a call with the prime minister and advised her not to provoke Beijing on the question of Taiwan's sovereignty, said Japanese officials, and an American briefed on the call. Xi has long had his eye on reclaiming Taiwan as a part of China. An attack many observers have warned would be devastating for both countries and could spiral into a wider conflict. The White House released a statement from Trump to the Wall Street Journal about the report, saying the United States' relationship with China is very good, and that's also very good for Japan, who is our dear and close ally, because the prime minister is a Trump-humping piece of shit. Getting along with China is a great thing for China and the U.S., in my opinion. President Xi will be substantially upping his purchase of soybean and other farm products, and anything good for our farmers is good for me. We should talk about the soybeans. Remember when Donald Trump said, oh, I saved it. We've got China now is going to buy like 20 or 30 metric tons of soybeans. So the farmers should be good. He was going to bail them out, never really did that. Now he's going to start sales to China of soybeans. But the deal they had wasn't a hard deal in writing where people had to follow it. There were a lot of possibilities where China could back out from doing that because there were no hard deals signed. And to date, at this moment in time, China has purchased like 330,000 pounds of soybeans, quite a bit less than what Donald Trump promised, and certainly not enough to save our farmers. So I would say this to the farmers. All of you that voted for this should have known better after what happened the first time. You're waiting for the bailout. Donald Trump says he's going to bail you out. You haven't received a bailout. Then he says he's going to get China to buy soybeans, but they only buy a fraction of what you're used to selling them. So you're still in trouble. Financially, they are bleeding you dry. Donald Trump is doing nothing to help you. And I would hope after experiencing something like this, you would maybe learn a fucking lesson. Don't vote this way again. As much as you hate the Democrats, think about this. How were your sales during Joe Biden? They were pretty good. They were still coming back from when Donald Trump fucked it up the first time, but at least they were steadily getting better. The moment Donald Trump gets in, he throws you under the bus. He leaves you twisting in the wind. Anyway, he says, we signed wonderful trade deals with Japan, China, South Korea, and many other nations, and the world is at peace. Let's keep it that way, Trump added in a statement. Yeah, the world is at peace. Russia and Ukraine still fighting. Israel and Hamas and Gaza, that's still going on in spite of the fact that Donald Trump allegedly signed a peace agreement. The fighting's still going on. The genocide is still going on. Um, and the country's financially in trouble, especially the farmers. See what he does here. He just tells you a flat out lie and expects you to believe it. And if you're dumb enough, you do. You could sit there and be starving to death and believe whatever Donald Trump tells you. And I'll be honest with you, if you still continue to follow Donald Trump after what he's done to you, you deserve what you're going to get. And I'm sorry to say that. That's not a Christian or a nice guy thing to say. But as I've said so many other times, the problem here is it's not like you don't know. It's not like you haven't seen what you've seen. And if you haven't learned yet, apparently, apparently, you're going to need some kind of catastrophic end to learn a fucking lesson. It's ridiculous. Um, Another thing that Donald Trump claimed to have is a deal signed with Canada. And this is an important deal. We've been an important trade partner with Canada. We had an agreement that Donald Trump created and signed with Canada and Mexico. It replaced NAFTA, and it wasn't much different than NAFTA. It was just now Donald Trump's name on it. And now he's saying that deal is horrible, the worst deal ever. Apparently, he forgets that he's the one that signed the motherfucker. But so he's been scrambling, trying to get things straightened out with Canada. Uh, but Donald Trump's not very talented in negotiations, in spite of the fact that he wrote a book about negotiations. Well, he didn't write it, somebody else wrote it, and he put his name on it. But in spite of that, he hasn't had much luck in his negotiations. As I told you with China, he had a deal, but nothing's ever been signed, and they aren't following through with what Donald Trump said their end of the bargain was. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney offered a bleak assessment of the U.S. Canadian relationship this week while announcing new support for his country's steel and lumber industries targeted by President Donald Trump's tariffs. This is what he said. We know that this decades long process of our ever closer economic relationship between Canada and the United States has ended. This is what Carney is saying. And as a consequence of that, many of our strengths have become our vulnerabilities, particularly in those industries that are most tightly integrated with the United States, Carney said to reporters. Carney announced that his government would put new restrictions on the amount of steel lumber imported into Canada in an effort to help domestic producers. Canada's CTV News, among the new measures, is further limiting foreign steel imports from countries without a free trade agreement with Canada from 50 to 20% of 2024 levels, a measure largely aimed at reducing the Chinese steel imports. The government will also reduce quotas for countries for which Canada has free trade, excluding the US and Mexico, from 100% to 75% of 2024 levels, and impose a global 25% tariff on targeted imported products made from steel. So this is Donald Trump's telling us that we have a new deal with Canada, and their leaders saying, "Yeah, no, we don't. There is no deal. We don't have a deal." So Donald Trump can continue to tell us things, but they're all mostly lies. And the problem with those lies is he can make it sound great, he can make it sound sunny, but when it doesn't happen, real people suffer. On this Thanksgiving Day, everybody was paying more for their get together with their families and pay and what they were paying for dinners. Everything was more expensive. He told us that energy prices would be cut in half. I can tell you that here in Minnesota, my energy prices went up by about 25%. And I can tell you down in Georgia, where we have our other place, our small condo down there. Now, keep in mind, we have a small condo, one bedroom condo down there, and we're not there that often. Our monthly electric bill went from $68, and we're not even there. $68 to $142. That's more than 100% jump in Georgia. And I heard there were going to be some things like that in Georgia. I didn't know that it would affect me that much. And, to be honest with you, I can afford to pay it. I'm not happy about it, but you got to keep the lights on, so I will pay it. But here's the deal. There are a lot of people in Georgia and other parts of this country that cannot afford that extra cost for energy. Donald Trump said it would be 50% less or half the price that we're paying now. And in my case, it's increased by 25% here and more than double in Georgia. Donald Trump made a lot of promises, and some dumb fucks voted for him because they believed him. But now they see what's happening. They see what Donald Trump has said is a bunch of shit. And guess who's paying the price? You and me. We're paying the fucking price here. And it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for people to get this through their thick MAGA fucking skulls that you were duped, you were lied to, you were played, you were gaslit. How long is that going to take? I think most of us with a reasonable mind have understood this for a long time. Prior to the election, me and other people like me and people who listen to people like me have all tried to warn Trump-a-fucks. This is bad. This isn't going to be good. And since Donald Trump became president, what have we got? Nothing but bad, scandal, stupidity, cruelty, egregiousness. That's what we got. That's what you voted for. So now we have to deal with it. And much like everything else in Donald Trump's world and life, he will fail catastrophically, and then somebody will have to clean it up. Unfortunately, in this particular case, that is going to be us. We're going to have to clean it up. And I've said before, when this is all over and Donald Trump is no more, and we have Democrats in charge, you better be ready to be patient. Things will get better. But if you think we can flip a switch and be where we were prior to Donald Trump, that's not going to happen. We'll never be like what it was prior to Donald Trump. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. When we come out the other side, it will be better, but it'll be dramatically different than what you're used to. I'm really thinking here when we're talking about the ACA, if they don't extend the subsidies, it's going to be catastrophic for a lot of folks who count on that health care. And people are going to be upset. They're already mad because they're seeing what their prices could be for healthcare. And if we have that catastrophic problem with healthcare, I think coming out the other side, say in 2028, people are going to be talking about universal healthcare, Medicare for all, and all these people that didn't have a taste for it because they were lied to about it are going to finally say, I'm fucking done with this. I can't even have health care. We got to do something. So they might have more of a taste for universal health care. That may be the positive that comes out. As I've said before, we've been in positions like this before, like during the Depression. It was hard right. We come out the other side, we get FDR, and then there's a lot of safety net programs like Social Security, kind of an adjustment, if you will. People were struggling mightily after the Depression, and they needed the help. And it's going to be the same situation today. A lot of people are suffering. A lot of people are struggling, and they are going to get very tired of this very quickly. And when the Democrats take control on the other side, they better be able to step up and do what they promised or what they were talking about. Because once the Republicans are out of the game, trust me and a lot of people are going to focus on the Democrats. And you Democrats that haven't done anything, didn't codify Roe v. Wade, are in bed with insurance companies and the medical lobby, you're going to be gone too. Because whatever I talk about here about the Republicans, when they're gone, we're going to nitpick every fucking Democrat that's done everything they can to take money from us and give it to the wealthy people. And make no mistake, there are plenty of Democratic politicians who have done that. You're going to be gone too. It's going to be my mission. Once the Republicans are gone, Democrats who aren't much better, you're going to be gone too. The focus will be on you. All right, I'll just remind folks that if you want to send text questions, you can do that by texting at 952-522-1399. 952-522-1399. Send me the questions, comments, whatever you like. I like to hear from you, and we can talk about it either on the podcast or on a separate feature that we do sometimes. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.